WLAF presents the 2024 Meet the Candidates Forum, where you'll meet the candidates seeking offices in the August 1st election. Candidates are seeking to serve on the school board, as property assessor, as road superintendent, and state representative. The forum is brought to you by 50 Phase, local realtor Gage Doppel, ABC Bounce House and Party Rental, Cumberland Equipment Rentals, Quality Lawn Sales and Service, Smith Metal and Dock Sales, Robbins Roofing, Guttering, and Siding, Community Trust Bank, and by WLAF.
Welcome to our WLAF Candidates Forum for 2024. It's the property assessor candidates here this evening. In alphabetical order, we'll go tonight. Marie Ayers, the challenger, the incumbent, Brandon Parton. Jim Freeman here, along with Susan Sharp as your host. We have 10 questions we've provided the candidates with ahead of time, and we're selecting 6 of those questions randomly tonight for our participants. We'll open with a couple of minutes for each candidate to introduce themselves and give us just some insight and background on each other. We'll start alphabetically with Marie Ayers. Marie?
Thank you, Jim. Thank you, WLAF. My name is Marie Ayers. I'm running for property assessor for Campbell County in the August 1st election. I believe it is time for a change. I'm from the Pinecrest community in Jacksboro. I've lived in Campbell County my entire life. I was raised to work, from raising watermelons, pumpkins, mowing yards, cleaning houses, whatever it was, just to make a little money. I was poor, but I didn't know it. I just knew if you wanted something, you had to work for it. In 2022, I lost my dad, Gary Reed, to a long battle with cancer. I was very close with him. I worked with him at a very young age building homes. I learned more than I realized. In addition to being a carpenter's daughter, I have over 21 years as a licensed real estate agent. I've served 2 terms as county commissioner. I still serve on the county planning commission. I obtained my Master of Accountancy degree from UT Knoxville in 1996, obtained my CPA license after that, and worked in public accounting for 4 years before opening my own practice here in town. In 2003, I obtained my real estate license. Since then, I've seen the market rise and fall, but through it all, I predicted the outcome for Campbell County. In addition, I've been a licensed contractor for over 13 years. My family has established and owns 3 successful businesses. We have chosen to make Campbell County our home. I'm running for office for the taxpayers. With my experience and education, I'm qualified for the office. I'll be able to bring a new perspective to it with more real estate knowledge and firsthand experience dealing with home sales and appraisals. My husband is Cody Ayers from Stinking Creek. Jonathan Ayers is our son. We are from here. We choose to stay here. We want to give back to the community. If the taxpayers want an independent evaluation of the property assessor's office, I respectfully ask you to vote in Marie Ayers in the upcoming election. It's time for change.
Marie, thank you. We go now to Brandon Parton for his 2 minutes opening comments. Brandon?
Thank you, Jim. My name is Brandon Parton. I am your current property assessor. I am the son of Gary and Brenda Parton of Jacksboro. I've lived in Jacksboro all my life. Married to Maria Parton, and I've got 3 sons, Logan, Landon, and Luke. My oldest son, Logan, is a student at Lincoln Memorial University, enrolled in the nursing program. My middle son will be moving into the high school here this year. My youngest son will be moving into the middle school. My wife and I have been married for 24 years. We met at Roane State while I was achieving my degree in Geographic Information Systems, which is actually the mapping system that we use in the office. I've been an employee of the office for nearly 21 years. Been elected for 16. There's nothing in this office that I have not done. I have done all of the training for most of the employees that works in the office, and I've always been here for the property owners. That's who I work for. I don't work for anybody else but the property owners, and that's who I'm here for. So that's pretty much me in a nutshell, Jim, and I appreciate the opportunity to be here tonight and to answer any questions that you have.
Very good, Brandon. Thank you. Marie, Brandon, here we go with our first question. Marie, what qualifies you to hold this office, the property assessor?
My education gives me the strong background that qualifies me for the office. However, what really qualifies me to run the office and to make a difference to our taxpayers is many years of dedicated work experience and managing companies. I currently have 6 agents. I'm able to manage them with very little effort and time. If you give your employees the right training and the basics, they will succeed. That's what I've done, and I'm certain I can do that with this office and staff. I'm familiar with most all aspects of the property assessor's office, from sales of homes, land, greenbelt, forestry, agricultural, commercial properties, new construction. Just from the 21 years of doing this as a real estate agent, I have experience with dealing with true appraisals and understand the mechanics of them. I've managed vacation rentals. I'm very familiar with how the hotel-motel tax should be handled. Overall, I believe my experience, my determination, and willingness to dedicate the time needed for this office is what qualifies me to be the property assessor.
Marie, thank you. Brandon, we'll pose the same question to you. What qualifies you to hold this office?
Thank you, Jim. While not only being the assessor for the last 16 years, I also hold a degree in the Geographic Information Systems, that is the mapping system within the office here. On top of that, I also have numerous classes and numerous hours of study and of education directly related to this office, administered by the Division of Property Assessments, the International Association of Assessing Officers, and the Tennessee Association of Assessing Officers. All of these classes are directly related to the inner workings of this office. There's not a facet of this office that I have not done or performed. So I do believe that with my education and my experience within the office, people will understand that my heart and soul has been put into this office with the 21 years of experience that I've been in there. I started out with under Bill Hicks when I first got hired on, and have moved through the ranks. And most people know that I work for the property owner themselves. I don't work for anyone else. And I believe that's what qualifies me, heart and soul, for this office. Thank you.
Brandon, thank you. We go to Susan Sharp now for our next question. Susan?
Okay, Brandon, this one's going to go to you. What changes would you implement in the office if you're reelected?
That's a tough question. We run a very well-structured office right now as we operate. As far as changes to the office, I really don't know of any besides the phone system. That would be about the biggest thing for us. The changes that we would like to see, though, would probably have to reflect with the reappraisal process itself. Currently we are on a 5-year reappraisal cycle, and with the ever-changing volatile real estate market that we are experiencing right now, our next reappraisal is in 5 years, so I would put it in 2029. With my experience in the office and the experience of the employees in the office, I have been told that the Division of Property Assessments and by the State Board of Equalization, that under my leadership we will be able to amend this 5-year reappraisal cycle to a 3-year reappraisal cycle, which would be able to reflect any change in the market sooner and not later. And that would be probably my biggest change to the office itself. Susan.
Okay. Thank you, Brandon. Marie, we'll ask you the same question. If you are elected, what changes would you make?
Well, initially, I would put my accounting background to work. With my accounting background, I would intend to analyze the entire office's day-to-day operations, determine what positions are needed, and do we have the most qualified people doing those jobs. If there's additional training that's needed, I would intend to seek out training for those staff members, and hopefully I could provide a lot of it myself. We do a lot of training in real estate. Further, we need a systematic way of doing a check and balance with property sales, new construction completion, floating homes, hotel-motel taxes, etc. We need to streamline anything that can be streamlined so we can make sure that we have the entire office organized. So we can do this, we must free up time and assets to be able to assess the other revenue streams, like the floating homes and the properties that are subject to the hotel-motel tax. Most floating homes are owned by out-of-state property owners, and let's say that there's 50 floating homes. One is owned by a local taxpayer. If we don't assess these floating homes and let the out-of-state people share the tax burden, then our local property owners are going to be footing the total bill. It's time for a change how we think, and that is where I come in, forward thinking and not just content with how things are.
Okay, Marie, thank you. Brandon, how would you work with people who disagree with their property's assessed value?
Well, Jim, that's basically what we've been doing here lately with this latest reappraisal. But the first step that we try to work with the property owner is the fact of what we call the informal hearing. We allow them to come in or call in and sit down and discuss the card with us. We are in no way trying to implement a value on the property owner that they do not agree with. So we strive to get as close to market value during a reappraisal year as possible. However, we understand that there are disagreements. We are open to those disagreements. So like I said before, we allow the owners to come in and sit down and discuss it with us openly. And if we cannot come up with an agreed upon value, then we will allow them to go to the County Board of Equalization and even assist them with that process. County Board of Equalization meets the first 15 business days of June, and we will also assist that property owner with that process. Now, of course, beyond that, they also have the opportunity to go to the State Board of Equalization. But we hope that we never get to that point, because we like to be able to sit down and discuss the property owner's opinion of value, because like I said, there's certain things that we cannot see inside these houses. We do curbside review of them, so if there's damages to the inside that we cannot see, or any type of situation with the property that we're not aware of, it needs to be brought to light with us, and we make the proper adjustments at that point in time.
Brandon, thank you. Marie, the same question for you. How would you work with people who disagree with their property's assessed value?
Well, Jim, I would hope that if the assessments were done in a timely, fair, and equitable manner, then there wouldn't be a lot of people discussing their values. Those that do, though, would be invited to come by the office to discuss their perspective. Someone could have an actual appraisal that would show a different value than the assessor's office, because again, as Brandon said, the assessors have to do it from outside. The actual appraiser goes inside. I intend to hold at least quarterly town hall meetings, one in Jacksboro, one in Jellicoe, just to keep the taxpayers informed of what's going on in the assessor's office. The property assessor's office knew that the reassessment was coming, but they chose to have the first 2 town hall meetings that I'm aware of in 16 years. They held them before the letters went out. And I feel like it would have been more beneficial to the taxpayers if they'd held them after the letters went out. There'd have been a lot more people show up. They'd had more questions. I think it would have been a better utilization of the taxpayers' dollars. So open communication, respect everybody's opinions and time, and it just goes a long way.
Marie, thank you. Susan Sharp with our next question. Susan?
Well, this question is very topical this week, and I believe, Brandon, it's your turn. What is a reappraisal, and why is it necessary?
Reappraisal is a law, or it's mandated by state law. It's a process that has to be completed on either a 4, 5, or 6-year cycle. The purpose of a reappraisal is to bring market value or bring the property appraisal to fair market value as close as possible. And the reason for that is to be able to bring everybody to an equality, or to be equally assessed. It is a lengthy process. We are currently on a 5-year cycle, which takes 4 years of building a database, sales verification, review of all the 30,400 something odd parcels in this county. We have 2 reviewers to do such with, but it is definitely a necessary process, because if not, we would lose that equilibrium of the values within the county. Because, like I said before, with the ever volatile real estate market that we have here lately, it allows areas to get unbalanced, I guess you could say. So the reappraisal actually brings everything back into a balanced value.
Okay, thank you. Marie, same question to you. What is a reappraisal, and why is it necessary?
Well, like you said, as the economy changes with inflation, so does the market values and sales. A reappraisal is necessary to keep the tax base in check with reality. However, it must be done timely, and as I feel a 5-year period is what we currently have, he's advocated for that, and it just don't reflect the values properly. It's definitely what we've seen this week with the assessments. The state, again, is in the works to approve where we can do a 3-year plan. So hopefully, if on a 5-year plan, if it takes 4 years to put everything in, things have got to be streamlined so that we can do a 3-year plan. Because with the, if you're doing the same process like we're doing now, you're not going to make it to do a 3-year. And I think it would just be better for the taxpayers to spread the values and do it quicker. If you wait 5 years to assess the properties, you could be overcharging a lot of taxpayers, or even undercharging them if new things are built and constructed and not put on the tax rolls.
Marie, thank you. We go to our next question. What role should the property assessor play in working with other county departments and elected officials? And we go to Brandon Parton for that response. Brandon?
Well, Jim, we try to work with every office equally. We'll start off with the county commission. We provide them with an assessment summary every month to assist in them calculating what they call the cost of a penny, I guess it is, the amount of a penny or the value of a penny. We also work with the Register of Deeds office. The Register of Deeds office, when you go in and register your deed, the ladies at that office brings us that deed the very next day, and we start working on it in order to transfer what property needs to be transferred, adjust what maps needs to be mapped, and then we'll move on to the trustee's office. We work very closely with the trustee's office. We work with them mostly with the tax freeze program and with the daily operations as far as if they need any assistance with us, because of course the taxes are calculated off of our values. People come into our office all the time asking about tax freeze programs, senior citizen discounts, any type of veteran discounts. Of course, we will assist them to the point that we know, and then we will send them down to the experts, which is in the trustee's office. But we try to work with every office as freely and as equally as we can, and we pride that very much so.
Very good. Thank you. Marie, we'll ask you the same question, of course. What role should the property assessor play in working with other county departments and elected officials?
Well, Jim, the property assessor's duty is primarily, of course, to the taxpayers. They're the ones that pay the salaries, the expense of those day-to-day operations. However, the assessor needs to take responsibility of his office, not try to push everything off on another department, judicial body, like the county commission. The assessor should work closely with the other departments and the elected officials to maximize the revenue, but to minimize the burden on the local taxpayers. Basically, if there's a way to collect revenue from out-of-state owners like the floating homes, vacation rentals, then we must assess them. Most expect to share this burden and pay, but they can't pay it if we don't assess them. I think remaining on the county planning commission will be a huge asset to the department from me, because the planning commission approves like subdivisions and things before anybody even knows any building is going on. There's just things that should come into play in the role of the property assessor, and to stay connected to the county and what's going on outside the office to better serve the people within the office.
Marie, thank you. And Susan, our next and final question.
Okay.
We'll let you pose that.
All right. Thank you, Jim. Marie, we're going to let you go first on this one. If you're elected, what would your top 2 to 3 priorities be for your term in office?
Okay. Audit the day-to-day operations for the effectiveness and the efficiency would be the first step. Next would be to streamline any of those operations that we can to be done more expediently, so we can free up more time for the staff, for myself, to identify and assess the new revenue streams. Not necessarily new, but the ones we're not assessing. Finally, have an open door policy year-round, not just 2 weeks following a reappraisal. I intend to establish again a presence in Jellicoe as well as here in Jacksboro. Hold town hall meetings at least quarterly. Again, one here, one in Jellicoe. The taxpayers are the employer and we are the employees. So give them what they're paying for. Don't be content just because things have been done a certain way. There's always room for improvement, and it just takes fresh eyes sometimes to see it. Any staff that is there and their position is necessary, if they're doing their job and they're doing it happily, they will be invited to stay. If they're not happy or they don't want to treat the taxpayers with the respect that they deserve, then they will be asked to leave. That's pretty simple. I've worked with the public since 2000. I've dealt with many pretty serious issues, but if you just talk through the concerns with taxpayers, generally the issues will resolve themselves. So these would be my top priorities.
Thank you, Marie. Brandon, what would your top 2 to 3 priorities be for your next term in office if reelected?
All right. My top priority will be to actually amend the 5-year reappraisal plan that we are currently setting on. The law is passing through legislation right now to change that from a 4, 5, and 6-year cycle to a 2, 3, and 4-year cycle. As I stated before, with the experience that I hold in the office and the experience of the employees in the office, that is very obtainable. The benefit of that 3-year reappraisal would be to actually recoup any type of value or reflect any type of value that might shift in the market today. Should these market values that we're looking at right now take a decline in 2 years, then the property owner would expect those values to drop also on the property taxes. And I fully intend to do that because of the fact that's who I work for, is the property owner. I'm not a politician by no means. This is the only position I have ever ran for, and everybody knows that by me. I'm not a politician. I don't plan on being one. I just happen to be the professional that can do the job. The number 2 priority that I would have would be the assessment of floating homes. Floating homes have been around for quite a while. However, the laws did not really back us up, according to attorneys and my own opinion also, to actually grab a hold of the assessment of these floating homes. With current changes in the law that I actually assisted with getting done with the TNWAO, of which I sat on the policy committee, the changes in the laws and the recent Attorney General opinions that have been found and recorded, we do believe that is an assessment that we can reach for, and that would be my number 2 priority. Because number 3, we are definitely one of the top offices in this state, and have been told as such. We have achieved 2 certifications with the TNWAO with 3-star awards. We run a top-notch office.
Thank you, Brandon. We appreciate it. Thank you. Jim, back to you.
Okay, thanks, Susan. A special thanks to Ann Marie Ayers, Brandon Parton, candidates for property assessor. Susan Sharp, thank you. Our folks behind the scene, Matthew Moore, Derek Marlowe. Stay connected. More coming your way here on WLAF's Meet the Candidates Forum 2024.
You're watching WLAF's presentation of the 2024 Meet the Candidates Forum. Coming up next, the 2nd District School Board race. The forum is brought to you by 50 Fades, local realtor Gage Dopel, ABC Bounce House and Party Rental, Cumberland Equipment Rentals, Quality Lawn Sales and Service, Smith Metal and Dock Sales, Robbins Roofing, Guttering and Siding, Community Trust Bank, and by WLAF.
Our Meet the Candidates Forum continues here on WLAF. It's a school board candidate Meet the Forum this evening. District 2 is the race we're talking about. The 2 candidates, Brent Lester, Marvin Rutherford. Susan Sharp is our host with me tonight, and we welcome everyone in and thank you for connecting. We'll open up with a couple of minutes of comments from each candidate, then we'll get to the questions, and we'll go in alphabetical order. So we'll start right now with Brent Lester to give us a couple of comments here, Brent.
Hey, Jim. Thanks for having us here.
Glad you're here.
My name is Brent Lester. I currently serve school board, 2nd District, for the past 8 years, seeking one more term, and that'll be it for me. But currently employed at Gold Creek Foods in Caryville, Tennessee as a purchasing manager there. Have 3 kids, all went through the Campbell County school system. One is still currently in there as a junior, and just wanted to come in and tell you all some thoughts about what we want to do and answer some questions for you.
Very good, Brent. Thanks. Now, Marvin, a couple of minutes for you.
Yeah. Hello, my name is Marvin Rutherford. I'm seeking the 2nd District School Board seat. I've lived here all my life, graduated in 1984 from Campbell County High School. I have raised 3 kids through our Campbell County school system. All 3 have graduated, and I'm a business owner and know what a budget is and needs to be, and I'd appreciate your vote and support in the upcoming election.
Okay, Marvin, thank you as well. Susan, will you begin with the questions, or you want me to start?
Let's let you start.
Okay, all right, here we go. This is a question. We'll go to Brent, of course, going in alphabetical order. Brent, is there a particular issue that motivates you to serve on the school board, the Board of Education? Obviously, you're there now, but is there a motivation in particular there?
Absolutely. My main motivation for being on the school board is to, I just want our kids to have a quality education, the best that we can provide, and to have the same opportunities that any other district around us has, whether it be facilities, whether it be infrastructure, and all that. So it's basically, I just want the best for our kids. I always have, and going to continue to do so if I'm elected the next term.
Very good. Marvin, we'll pose the same question to you, and that is there a particular issue that motivates you to serve on the school board?
Yeah, I just wanted to give back to our community, our school system, for having my 3 kids graduated through them, and they had some good teachers and stuff, and I just want to serve with a common sense approach on the school board.
Very good. 2 questions, 2 right to the point answers. Thank you, gentlemen. Susan, we'll let you go ahead and ask the next question.
Thank you, Jim. As you all know, the school board has a large budget. Brent, I'm going to ask you first, what and how, where and how should the majority of that funding be allocated?
Yeah, we currently have a $48 million budget. I think the upcoming budget, we're allowed 49 due to a rearrangement of the way that they are looking at student enrollment and needs and stuff like that by county. So our next budget's going to be like $49 million. But definitely you start with safety teachers, counselors, the mental health counselors, and then you look at what tools they need to succeed, and that's where you go next with your budget money.
Okay, thank you. Marvin, same question to you. It's a large budget. Where and how should the majority of that budget be spent?
Okay, paychecks for our school employees such as teachers, custodians, secretaries, SRO officers, maintenance workers, cooks, and administrators. And the last portion of the funds should go to employee benefits and pensions.
That it?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, you fellas said you'd be to the point tonight, and there's no question about that.
Exactly.
Getting right to it.
Jim, we should note we're giving them 2 minutes each to answer, and these guys are sailing right through it. They know what they want to say.
There's no doubt about that. And we didn't mention this on the front end. We composed 10 questions, and each candidate received their questions ahead of time, ahead of today's broadcast. And then we were going with 6 of those questions, each candidate being asked the same question. And we'll go with you again, Brent. On the recent school report card, the majority of the schools in Campbell County received a D or lower. What would you attribute this to, and what can be done to improve the school system?
Well, I don't think the school system's doing badly. All right, the state changed the annual objective measures that they used. All right, so we have high achievement in our schools, but when they take the measurables out of the equation, it affected a grade level that they gave us. You know, we got Jacksboro Elementary that received a reward school, and this year our junior class, countywide, has the most students ever. I think it was reported today that has the most students ever to achieve a 21 or greater on their SAT scores. So the letter grade really is not reflective of how we're doing as a school system. Mm-hmm. We've got a lot of current things that's in place, but when the state gives you different guidelines than what they are measuring you by, you know, of course.
Change the rules of the game.
Change the rules of the game.
As the game's being played.
Exactly.
Okay. Thank you, Brent. Let's go to you, Marvin. On a recent school report card, the majority of the schools in Campbell County received a D or lower. What do you attribute this to, and what can be done to improve the school system?
The criteria that the state has changed the grading system to from past years and stuff to affect our grades being lower than usual.
Okay. Very good. Susan, we'll let you get to the next question for us.
Thank you, Jim. As you all know, bullying is a crisis in our public schools. Brent, asking you first, how do we stop, or at the very least, reduce bullying in our schools?
You know, bullying is a serious issue, and it's a tough subject. We take bullying very seriously in the schools, and we've implemented a lot of things to try to combat that. You know, kids can be bullied on social media these days. They can bullied inside of school, outside of school, for things that happen in school. So it's tough for the school district to monitor that. But anytime a issue is reported, we start an investigation right off the bat. The SRO gets involved. Then it's actually even reported to the state of Tennessee. Okay, so, you know, we put cameras, brand new camera systems that are fantastic in all the schools. You can say if somebody in a blue shirt, you can type in blue shirt, and it will tell you everybody in the school has got blue shirts on you, so you can find incidents happening. So we can review those incidents and then take action appropriately when that happens. It's sad that it still goes on. It happened back when I was in school. Happened back then. We just didn't have the social media aspect, and it seems like the social media aspect is getting worse. But when it happens on social media, you got proof right there, and you can handle the situations. We are trying to be as tough as possible by guidelines on what we can do with that. But we've also, we bring in outside people to train our counselors on how to handle different situations. All right, we do in-school speakers to talk to students about the effects of bullying on people. My son Will actually went to the middle school and did these for a while and tried to talk to students about the effects on bullying. So we just got to keep talking about it and keep bringing it out there.
Thank you, Brent. Marvin, same question. How do we stop, or at the very least, reduce bullying in our public schools?
By setting clear enforceable rules and expectations, having clear definitions of the rules, removing labels and addressing behavior, reward positive behavior, encourage open communication, engaging parents, looking for warning signs, monitoring hotspots, and know your state law and district policies.
Okay, thank you. Jim?
Susan, thank you. This is something that's been talked about of late, maybe even further back. And again, Brent, we'll start with you. Brent Lester, do you support opening public school classrooms to well-educated people from other career fields and then giving them a fast-track route to become a qualified teacher?
Absolutely. Campbell County, like every other district in the state, is facing teacher shortages. But I do know that the state is offering some fast-track programs for individuals who are interested in doing that. There's teaching waivers that we do here that makes people like that available to teach as long as they're going to get their certification somehow and are, meet the required criteria. And a lot of colleges and universities are also doing educator prep programs. So absolutely, yes.
Okay. Brent, thank you. Marvin, same question for you, sir. Do you support opening public school classrooms to well-educated people from other careers and giving them a fast track to becoming a qualified teacher?
Yes, I do. I said due to the shortage of our teachers today, to fill the voids in our classrooms to protect our children's future. Yes, I do. My son was a prime example of that here in the last little bit as a fast track.
Okay, so. Very good. Marvin, thank you. And Susan?
Last question.
There we go.
All right. In the event that the school budget had to be trimmed, what would you consider off limits as far as cuts, and why would those areas be off limits? Brent, you first.
Okay, the budget, actually, you look at a $48 million, $49 million budget, it's very complex, okay? But I can tell you the one things that I would not cut is safety, teachers, instructional needs, counseling, mental health counselors, stuff like that are necessities to give our students the best education possible. I guess if I had to start cutting somewhere, because you don't know until everybody gets their input in there, what's put into the budget, then you review it. But I guess I would look at the non-required programs first and go from there. we're a board of 10, so one person can't say, hey, look, I'm going to cut this. You know what I mean? We have to sit down. We need to discuss, go line item by line item. It's a tough situation when you have a deficit. I've been part of a deficit. It's not easy to do. You have to get in and look, and you have to make sure that everybody has what they need to perform a good, to perform their job, and give them all the tools that they need to perform it to get a good education. But you would need to look at all the non-required programs first.
Okay, thank you. Marvin, same question. If you had to make cuts, what would be off limits and why?
Off limits would be the teachers, the SRO officers, and all school employees that's needed to keep the school maintained and running. And as far as on the budget cuts, you have to understand the whole total aspect of the budget to know what to cut and what not to cut.
Okay, Marvin, Susan, Brent, thank you so much. We appreciate your time tonight, and all those involved, Ann Rutherford, Matthew Moore, Aaron Hopkins, making this possible here. This is the WLAF 2024 Election Forum. Stay connected.
You're watching WLEF's presentation of the 2024 Meet the Candidates Forum. Coming up next, the 3rd District School Board race. The forum is brought to you by 50 Fades, local realtor Gage Dopel, ABC Bounce House and Party Rental, Cumberland Equipment Rentals, Quality Lawn Sales and Service, Smith Metal and Dock Sales, Robbins Roofing, Guttering and Siding, Community Trust Bank, and by WLAF.
It's our Meet the Candidates 3rd District School Board race candidates, and here tonight we have Jessica Childress, Brandon Johnson. I'm Jim Freeman with my host, Susan Sharp. We open with 2-minute comments from each of the candidates, and then we go to questions. We have 6 questions tonight for each candidate, and we'll go in alphabetical order, starting with, of course, Jessica Childress and then Brandon Johnson. And Jessica, alphabetically, we'll start with you with a couple of minutes for your comments.
Thank you, Jim. My name is Jessica Childress. I am a former Level 5 educator here in Campbell County. I have served in multiple capacities in the school system. I have been a parent volunteer, a substitute teacher, as well as a PTO member. I actually attended Jellicoe High School. I'm a Jellicoe High School graduate, and I obtained my Bachelor's of Science in Organizational Management from Tusculum College. When I graduated, I wasn't quite sure which direction that I wanted to go in, and so that summer, I felt a strong calling on my life to go back to school to be a teacher. So that's what I did. I attended LMU's post-baccalaureate program in curriculum and instruction, and I became a licensed teacher. That following year, I married my husband, Chase. We've been married for 15 years now. We have a son, Luke, who is 14, and a son, Liam, who is 11. We are small business owners here in Campbell County. I am a professional licensed teacher as well as a licensed affiliate broker. I am running because I see the need for change in our school system. And I think that I have a unique balance of experience between being an educator and working in the school system in other capacities, along with being a mother of school-age children. And I think that it's clear that we have a need for change, and I want to make those positive changes for our school system. In closing, I would like to say that if you are looking for a typical politician and someone that will tell you what you want to hear, then I am not your person. However, if you are looking for someone who isn't afraid to ask difficult questions, press accountability and transparency, someone that is goal-driven, someone that has the students' and staff's interests at heart, and someone that truly wants to see Campbell County become one of the most thriving counties in Tennessee, then I am your person, and I humbly ask for your vote this election for 3rd District School Board member.
Jessica, thank you. And now we'll go to Brandon Johnson for his 2-minute opening comments. Brandon?
Great. Thank you all so much for having me. Susan, Jessica, Jim, great to be with you guys tonight. My name's Brandon Johnson. I'm also a local small business guy. We've had our family-owned and operated business here for 30 years. I'm a proud product of the 3rd District. I was from the youngest age, lived in the 3rd District, went to 3rd District schools, Graduated from Campbell County High School. The only time I didn't actually call the 3rd District home is when I went off to college. I went to East Tennessee State University. I'm a proud Buccaneer alumni. There, I managed in management and marketing. I then continued on and got my master's in business. Tried a couple different fields and then decided I just couldn't be away from home. There's just something very, very special about Campbell County. And there's something special about Campbell County schools. If you meet any of our teachers, any of our students, go to any of our sporting events, there is just this really cool energy that you just don't find anywhere else. And it's almost this very passionate, Mayberry-like feel, but there's so much room that we have for improvement. And I'll tell you guys, when I went to East Tennessee State University and I would tell folks, hey, I'm from Campbell County, proudly, you'd get this kind of like sour look. And that is one of my main passions and one of my main drives for running for school board. I'm tired of our schools being the butt of jokes. I'm tired for our teachers not getting the respect they should. I'm tired for the students not having an advocate for them. I'm really passionate about making a change here professionally. Again, I sell tires all day long, but in my free time, I'm also chairman of Special Olympics here in Campbell County. I'm the chairman of the Caryville Cares Playground Project, president of the Rotary Club. I've been a volunteer for Boy Scouts, past president of the Lions Club. There's not a single part of this community that I know of that I've not touched to some degree and tried to make better. I'm passionate about our schools. I'm passionate about our teachers. I'm passionate about our kids. Most importantly, though, I'm passionate about the future of Campbell County. And thank you guys for hosting this debate tonight.
Thank you.
Very good, Brandon. Thank you. As mentioned, we'll have 6 questions tonight. We'll go in alphabetical order, starting with Jessica Childress and then Brandon Johnson. Our first question for you, Jessica, is there a particular issue that motivates you to serve on the Board of Education?
Yes, there's actually several issues that motivate me to want to serve on the Board of Education. I've managed to narrow it down to about 5 priorities, and that is supporting continued improvements in our school safety. I want a strong focus on our academic performance. I would like to address the teacher shortages and retention issues. I would also like to provide financial transparency and press on accountability.
Very good. Thank you, Jessica. And Brandon, same question for you. Is there a particular issue that motivates you to serve on the Board of Education?
Yeah, just like Jessica, there's a lot of issues that motivate me to run. One of the things that I'm most passionate about, and so many people know, is something that I'm honestly, as a Campbell County, and a little ashamed of. Guys, for 20 years here in Campbell County, we went without a Special Olympics program. 20 years, 2 decades, generations of students. Some went through school and have children now in the school system and never got to learn anything about Special Olympics. And folks, we've got tons of advocates on the school board for Johnny the football player, Susie the cheerleader, Jamie the female basketball player. We've got tons of advocates for those people. I don't see a lot of advocates on our school board for people with intellectual and physical disabilities. And personally, that's what I've really dedicated my adult life to. And I'll share really briefly, my great-grandmother Phyllis, my inspiration for everything I do, was a special education assistant. And I was born to 2 19-year-old parents. When I was a kid, I stayed with my mama Phyllis a whole lot. And through that, I really got to see what an incredible educator at Ridgewood Elementary she was. What it was like to be in a classroom, what it was like to watch her and Miss Cindy Chadwell, who so many of us know, teach these students that have been forgotten about. And honestly, these students have been forgotten about in Campbell County schools. So one reason that I'm really passionate about running out of all the dozens is to advocate for those students, to step up for them, to fight for these students that seem to have been forgotten about and make a difference in their lives. We need to do better for every single student, not just the popular ones. That's why I'm running, Jim. That's why I'm running.
Brandon, thank you. Our next question, Susan, we'll let you get started there.
Okay, thanks, Jim. Jessica, starting with you. On the recent school report card, the majority of Campbell County schools received a D or lower. What do you attribute this to, and what can be done to improve our school system?
I want to first make the statement to our teachers and our students that we should all know by now that you are not defined by a letter grade or a number grade in the big scheme of things. You just truly are not. I want to look at this from a different perspective because we do need accountability measures not only in our schools, but for parents as stakeholders as well. While this is probably not the most solid criteria for the letter grade, and the state will probably change it a few more times, it does give us somewhat of an overview. And I just want to say that I do not, let me actually reiterate that, I do not believe that our teachers are to blame for this. I have worked along some of the best teachers in the county, and I have seen how much heart goes into it and how much hard work. But still yet, there is clearly a problem that we have to address. So when we look at it, it's hard to argue the fact that if an elementary school gets an A and we have a high school that gets a B, as to why it wouldn't be attainable for all schools. Mm-hmm. The thing is, instead of jumping to the conclusion that it's our teachers, maybe we need to take a deeper dive into the issues at hand. What is making it hard for our teachers to teach? What is affecting their ability to teach in the classroom? And some of those things are, we have behavior issues that pull our teachers out of the classroom, which reduces our instructional time. We have planning periods that are not truly being used the way they're supposed to because they get filled with IEP meetings, data meetings, just numerous things to where they're unable to effectively plan. We have non-supportive parents and caretakers. We have an immense workload on teachers that make it hard to have a home-work-life balance as well. You have poor teacher morale, which equals teacher shortages. There are a few things that are unfavorable decisions that the state can make, but it cannot be the scapegoat, and nor can COVID. There are so many things to look at on a local level to improve our system.
Okay, thank you, Jessica. Brandon, we're going to put the same question to you. On the recent school report card, the majority of Campbell County schools received a D or lower. What do you attribute this to, and what can be done to improve that?
Yeah, first I want to start by saying this isn't the fault of our administrators. This isn't the fault of our teachers. We have incredible administrators, teachers, paraprofessionals, janitors, school resource officers, the folks that are putting their blood, sweat, and tears in our education, I would put up against anybody. But we have some really unique problems here in Campbell County that kind of boil down to our culture. And folks, whether you admit it or not, one of the key factors of student performance is parental involvement in that education process. We've got to foster that. What seems to happen at our schools right now, we've got an incredible PTO at places like Valley View Elementary, Jacksboro Elementary, other schools that are doing really, really cool things. But what happens is Susie's mom and dad get really, really involved in the PTO. Susie then goes from elementary school to middle school. There's no continuity for that PTO. So in a lot of cases, it seems to fizzle out. One thing that I really want to see happen at Campbell County Schools is a position made to concentrate on community and public relations. One thing that this is going to do, it's going to tell the stories. It's going to brag about our teachers. It's going to brag about our students. I'm tired of Campbell County being the butt of the jokes and us being bad in the news. We've got so many great things going on here. We need somebody to craft that story. But I also want this position to be able to help foster and support parent-teacher organizations. If we can get parents involved from the first time their child steps through the school system to the very day they graduate, if we can involve them in that whole situation and that whole process, then all of a sudden what's going to happen, they're going to make sure they get their homework done. They're going to make sure they get proper rest before TCAPs. They're going to make sure they're more respectful to their teachers. We have to involve the parents in the process. That's something some schools have done really, really well. That's something that some schools have fallen short on, and we need central office and our school board to play an active role in helping facilitate that.
Okay, thank you so much, Brandon.
Thank you.
Jim, back to you.
All right, Susan, thank you. This is a hot button topic. We'll start with you, Jessica, with this question. What is your stance on school vouchers?
So I do want to make a clear distinction between school choice and school vouchers. We actually practice school choice on a smaller level here in Campbell County. So if a student goes to one school and maybe they're not thriving or it's not meeting their needs, they can actually transfer to another school. And so I 100% support being able to have school choice and for parents to make that decision for what is best for their child. Now let's talk about school vouchers. If you would have asked me 2 years ago, I would have said I was a tad bit intrigued about the idea. I want to think it started out with good intentions. However, I have watched other states over the last 2 years, the trends. I've watched West Tennessee, and it's just not proven to show that the scores are going up or anything significant in that. So I think what we have to look at is, I've spoke with the ESA department as well as watching these trends, and the issues that we're seeing is accountability issues with that. I would rather focus on our problems here in Campbell County more so. And the issue being discussed even with the vouchers in the private schools is the possibility of them even raising their tuition along with accepting these vouchers, which really would not benefit people coming from economically disadvantaged areas. So we have many wonderful teachers here at Campbell County, and I think that we have problems to focus on, and instead of throwing any more kinks in the chain, I think we should just really zone in on what we can do to help our teachers, help our students, and really focus on making Campbell County the best that it possibly can be.
Very good. Jessica, thank you. Brandon, right to you, your stance on school vouchers.
Yeah, thank you. The hot button topic that everybody in education's talking about right now is school voucher, school choice. However you label it, it's the same thing in a different skin, essentially. Luckily in Campbell County, what vouchers, right? We just have public schools. We have no private schools in Campbell County. So school vouchers get passed. Are the students going to then go to Knox County? Are they going to go to J. Frank White? Or, excuse me, a private school in Knox County, I should say? What vouchers? Thankfully, that's something we don't have a private school here in Campbell County. What really concerns me deeply about vouchers is the level of accountability and having the same standards across the boards, right? So if we are going to hold our public schools to this degree, we need to hold our private school to this degree, okay? And one luxury that private schools have is they can sing their own song, right? They don't have to report so many of their key performance indicators like our local schools do. So we don't really know if a lot of these private schools are better. They're charging a lot of tuition. They can hire fancy staff. They can bring in the marketing. They can have the photo reels. They can have the videos and the TikToks and whatever else they want to have. But at the end of the day, it's putting lipstick on a pig, right? At the end of the day, they're out here bragging on these things, but we don't truly get to see how the sausage is made. You flip that on the other side, we're constantly critiquing our teachers, right? You naturally think, or so many people in our community do, because they went to school, that they're experts in education all of a sudden, right? We're critiquing and we're pulling apart and we're picking at our teachers. I'm not worried about vouchers right now. It has failed in the Tennessee legislature. It's a dead topic for this year. Next year, it may be something to consider again. But I want to see everybody held to the same standards, everybody have the same rules to play by. And until vouchers do come, I want to focus on making Campbell County schools as strong as possible and involving this community and supporting our schools for once instead of talking bad about it.
Brandon, thank you. Jessica, thank you. Susan?
Okay.
Your question.
Thanks, Jim. Unfortunately, we live in a time where children are being bullied, and it seems to be to an excessive amount. Mm-hmm. As a school board member, how would you stop, or at the very least, help reduce bullying in our systems?
So bullying is a real issue. I saw that as a classroom teacher. I have seen it as a parent. I think a lot of that pertains to electronics and social media. As a classroom teacher, a lot of the issues that I saw stemmed from outside issues, and it usually was text messages, social media. So first of all, I think we as parents have to do our part. But as an admin side, as a school system side, I would like to see us bring in more motivational speakers periodically to the school system with anti-bullying programs where they can speak to the children on this. From an admin side, I think we have to look at maybe a deeper dive into the consequences for bullying and maybe look at implementing a harsher punishment. I would say that in addition to that, we have to look at clarifying the terms of bullying, because in today's world it gets used very loosely. And so everything starts to fall under this large umbrella of bullying, and it gets overused. I will say that, unfortunately, I think this happens not just amongst the students. And so I would actually like to see some improvements in our ethics policies for our staff as well. I think that we should implement using paper surveys to survey our staff, and I think that that would allow them to have more of a voice, to feel like it was truly anonymous and that they could be more honest in giving their opinions and feedback on that. So I think there's multiple facets of looking at that on how to deal with bullying in the schools.
Okay. Thank you, Jessica. Brandon, same question. As a school board member, what would you do to stop, or at the very least, reduce bullying in our schools?
Great question. We're already doing it. So first, let me say that our administrators, our school professionals, they are handling bullying very seriously. Now, are there some outliers, as with anything? Are there exceptions to that rule? Absolutely. But if there's a complaint by a parent or a student about bullying, a bully investigation is opened, it's investigated, and then punishments are dealt out appropriately. Okay, so that's already happened. Our school system's doing their part. But what we have to do is we have to start fundamentally changing the way our students and our community think. And there's this quote that says something along the lines of, the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago, the second best time to plant a tree is today. Caraville Cares, our organization that's been building an inclusive playground, is planting that tree right now. Children's first thoughts, their first ways to make friendship, happen when they play together, when they're on a playground, when they're pushing each other on a swing set, when they're on a merry-go-round, when they're enjoying going down the slide. That is where lifelong friendships are made. And what we've done with the Caryville Cares Playground is, for the first time, we have not forgotten those students who may be a little different. And we, at the earliest ages, have sought to break down and to tell kids, hey, if somebody's different, that's okay. Right? In a world where you want to pick on somebody or chastise them or bully them because they're different, we're working to change that entire narrative. So are we going to be able to step up? Am I going to be elected to school board day one and said, all right, guys, bullying's over, and everybody looks around and we pat each other on the back? Absolutely not. But I'm not just doing things to get elected. We've been doing things for years in the community to plant that tree so that the next generation is going to look at each other with more kindness, more love, and more respect. And that is how we end bullying.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Jim?
Susan, thank you. Jessica, here we go.
Okay.
Do you support opening public classrooms to well-educated people from other fields and giving them a fast-track route to becoming a qualified teacher?
So honestly, I have mixed emotions about this. I think that if we're going to go this route, it should be more of a last case scenario. I say that because I think that we need to make sure that we are vetting these individuals a little bit more, but there's a whole lot more that goes into teaching. And so an example being classroom management. And that's a big one, actually. Yes. You know, not everybody has it, and it's not always an easy thing. So I think if we look at going this route, we need to vet those individuals. I think that we need to implement a student teaching practicum. And I think that we also need to have a short-term orientation at the beginning. And I say that because in that short-term orientation, we can discuss things like standards, the state standards. We can talk about classroom management. We can go over the policies. But then also, in addition to that, with the student teaching practicum, that gives them more of an on-the-job type training. So I think, you know, we've had several individuals to come through this route, and I think some have done a great job with that. So I'm not opposed to it, but I would recommend some additional requirements. However, I would say that I would be more in favor of focusing my energy on promoting more so our teacher retention and recruitment of certified teachers.
Okay, Jessica, thank you. Jessica Childress. Brandon, your turn. Do you support opening public school classrooms to well-educated people from other careers and then giving them a fast-track route to becoming a qualified teacher?
Yes. And I pause there to just emphasize, yes, I do. And I'll disagree with Jessica a little bit. Of course, we've got to sit down and we need to teach these folks how to be teachers, right? But why in the world would we send somebody to some overpriced four-year institution to learn about criminal justice, for example, and then come back in a classroom having never maybe even arrested somebody a day in their life, right? When we've got an opening in our criminal justice class, let's go to someone who has been a police officer, who has gone through, who has taught other police officers, who has learned how to do the job and put them in the classroom. Let's give these students firsthand experience. Again, I'm in the mechanic world. I'm the only person in this race that's directly employing personally people in the field. I'm the only person who really understands, not only do I have a collegiate background, but I also understand the importance of our trades programs. Let's find the best tradespeople in our community and put them at the high school, for example. When we have an opening to be the mechanics teacher, why are we not going out, finding the best darn mechanic we can in our community and saying, hey, do you want to make a difference? Do you want to change the next generation? Do you want to teach them this profession that we desperately need? We need to be doing the same thing with builders. We need to go through and we need to put these people directly in the classroom. How can you expect somebody to teach marketing, for example, who has never marketed anything in their life, right? Let's put people who have done the jobs in the positions. Let's teach them how to be teachers along the way. Let's open it up, let's get them trained, maybe have them job shadow for an extended amount of time, a year, learn how to be a teacher, but let's let them use their expertise to make our students better. The idea here that you have to go to college and you have to have all these years of experience to be able to do something is bogus. Let's empower our tradespeople. Let's empower our CTE program. Let's put those people in the classrooms where they can make a difference to students and make them productive their first day out of the classroom, not bury them with paperwork.
Brandon, thank you. Brandon Johnson. Susan, our last question.
Yes, our last question of the evening. Okay, Jessica, if necessary, where would you cut the school budget? What is off limits in those cuts? Let us know and be specific, please.
I will say that we have cut public education enough. It is down to the bare bone, unfortunately. As far as an off-limit item, I would definitely say school safety. I think that our kids and our staff, their safety should be top priority, and we should not waver on that. I can say that I would not be in favor of teacher layoffs. I think that if layoffs were imminent, if they were just absolutely imminent, I think that we would have to look from the top down. And I say that because we already are cut to the bare bone as far as our teachers go. We have teacher shortages, we have filled positions that are unfilled, and we cannot afford to lose any more teachers. That would not be beneficial at all to our students' success. And so, honestly, instead of even looking at basically entertaining the idea of budget cuts at all, I would rather look at it in addition to meeting with our county officials and looking at other ways that we can generate more revenue in our community for our schools. I think that we have a hot spot for tourism. It has increased a lot over the years with our beautiful mountains and our clean lake. And so I think that is something that we could get together and try to come up with other ideas and avenues, how to generate more money for our community that we can help contribute to our schools, and therefore we can eliminate budget cuts altogether. Would be obviously ideal. So
Great. Thank you, Jessica. Brandon, same question. If necessary, where would you cut the school budget? What's off limits? Why? Be specific.
Yeah, let's cut school board pay. Some of you all may not realize, but our school board members, as crazy as this sound, are compensated. They are paid. They have the opportunity for insurance, which I think is bogus myself. Why are we paying people that are saying they're wanting to run for office, they're passionate about running for office? Why are they drawing a paycheck? Let's stop that. When I'm elected, every single dollar that this county chooses to give me as a paycheck, I don't want it. I'm going to invest it directly back every single time I get it into the students and into our community right here like I already do. So you've got so many people that run for this office for a paycheck or for insurance or whatever, and they say it's for the kids, but that's just blatantly not true in some cases, okay? So we need to stop paying our school board members if we've got a budget crisis, and probably even if we don't. We can use that money somewhere else better. However, one thing that I want to do is start a Campbell County Schools Foundation. We have incredible generosity right here in Campbell County. Careville Cares have raised something like $500,000 in cash and in-kind contribution to build our community's first inclusive playground. That's through the incredible generosity of people right here in Campbell County. I was just talking to a paraprofessional, a teaching assistant the other day, who pulled together with their other teaching assistants to buy a student in a CDC class with an intellectual disability chewable jewelry. So there wasn't money in a budget. There was nowhere they could go and find a couple dollars. This student, to be able to perform in class, needed something to chew on. And so these assistants that are making $15 an hour or less pulled their money together and gave $100 to buy this. Let's use the incredible generosity and the resources of Campbell County to start a school foundation where teachers don't have to pull money out of their pocket anymore, and we can help support them. That's where I would cut budgets.
All right, great. Thanks, Brandon.
Thank you.
All right, Brandon, thank you. Jessica, thank you. Susan, thank you. District 3 school board candidates, Jessica Childress, Brandon Johnson. This is Meet the Candidates on WLAF. Stay connected.
You're watching WLAF's presentation of the 2024 Meet the Candidates Forum. Coming up next, the 4th District School Board race. The forum is brought to you by 50 Fades, local realtor Gage Dopel, ABC Bounce House and Party Rental, Cumberland Equipment Rentals, Quality Lawn Sales and Service, Smith Metal and Dock Sales, Robbins Roofing, Guttering and Siding, Community Trust Bank, and by WLAF.
It is our Meet the Candidates District 4 school board candidates here with us tonight. We have in alphabetical order Josh James and my co-host Susan Sharp, and Miss Jamie Human Wheeler. and we welcome you here tonight. We'll open up with a couple of minutes of comments. We have 6 questions that we'll be asking each candidate in alphabetical order. And Susan, let's go ahead and begin with our 2-minute opening remarks. We'll go alphabetically. We'll start with Mr. Josh James. Josh?
Well, first of all, thank you to WLAF. Thank you, Mr. Freeman and Susan, for giving me the opportunity to come and speak tonight. Go ahead and introduce myself. My name is Josh James, and I currently have the privilege of sitting on the school board right now, representing the 4th District. I was born and raised right here in Campbell County by 2 lifelong educators, Lonnie and Sharon James. I've been happily married to my wife, Emily, for almost 10 years. We have 2 amazing sons, Emmett and Witten, who are currently enrolled in Campbell County schools, and we're expecting our 3rd at any given moment. We own 2 successful local businesses here in town, Norris Lake Insurance and Exterior Home Solutions.
Very good. Josh, thank you. And Jamie?
Thank you, Jim, Susan, for having us here tonight. Appreciate the opportunity. I'm going to tell you my age. Honestly, hate to, but I have lived in the 4th District for 62 years, and of those 62 years, I was in the school system 34 of that. And of those 34 years, I taught and was assistant principal and principal at Jacksboro Middle School. And then after that, 10 years at Campbell County High School. I have a passion for education. I want to get back into public service. I've been retired now for 3 years, so I just want to get back into it, hopefully help the kids of Campbell County, the teachers, and everyone in the system.
Very good. Thank you, Ms. Jamie. And we begin with our questions. As mentioned alphabetically, we'll start with Josh James. Josh, what do you see as the primary responsibility of a school board member?
Well, a lot of people don't know this, but truly, as a board member, you truly only have 3 responsibility. You hire and fire the director of schools, you set board policy, and you approve an annual budget. Now, do we have some board members currently that feel like they need to be in the day-to-day operations? Absolutely, but I don't think that that's the correct approach to this position. You know, I went into this role 6 years ago to allow the people that are making the decisions to make those decisions and to help in any way possible for those decisions to be successful. I wanted to be supportive to our staff, to our students. I wanted to be someone that they felt like that they could reach out to at any given moment and feel like their voices were being heard. Thank you.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Josh. Jamie, we'll ask you the same question. What do you see as the primary responsibility of a school board member?
Well, a lot of what Josh said, you hire and evaluate the director of schools. Also, you're involved with just approving the budget, adopting the budget for the schools. And I think a key thing, setting policy and making sure that, your state and federal laws are followed. And also, and I think something that's very, very, very important is communicating with your district, getting their input. What would you like to see going on in the schools? I don't think, I don't want to be telling teachers how to teach in the classroom. I never liked anyone telling me how to teach in the classroom, because they know what they're doing. They're educated. They've gone to school, and that's what they know how to do. And I think we're there just to set the policy, budget, hire, and evaluate the director, and communicating with our district.
Very good. Jamie, thank you. Susan?
All right, next question. Start with you, Josh. Where and how should the majority of the school system's funding be allocated?
Well, the Campbell County Board of Education is the largest employer in our county. Last year's budget was right at $47 million. The Board of Education, we employ roughly right at 750 employees. So when you're talking about where the majority of the funds are going, I think it has to be to the personnel. I want the absolute best personnel that we could possibly get for our children, for our students. That's why I have consistently pushed raising wages year after year for our employees while being on the board. And if given the opportunity, I will continue to push to raise wages for our employees because I truly believe that our students deserve the absolute very best personnel that we can find.
Okay, thanks, Josh. Okay, Jamie, you're next. Where and how should the majority of the school system's funding be allocated?
I think it should be students, personnel, students, curriculum. Those are the most important things. We got to make sure the students have everything that they possibly need. We need to make sure teachers are supported and get everything they possibly need. And that includes everyone from the teachers, custodians, cooks, assistants, school nurses, everyone. They're all involved in students' education, and they all deserve the best. And I think that's where it should be allocated. And that's especially starting with students first.
Okay. Thank you, Jamie. Jim?
Susan, thank you. Josh, we're back to you. On the recent school report card, the majority of Campbell County schools received a grade of D or lower. What do you attribute this to, and what do you think can be done to improve our school system?
You know, Jim, I'm glad that this was actually one of the questions that was on here, and I actually had a decent feeling that it probably would be. But just to let everyone know, these grades are solely determined on one test. And I truly believe that there are far more important things in our children's education and in our schools than one test. I truly believe that the state is failing our children. You know, our achievement has improved 5 out of the past 6 years, and that 1 year was a COVID year. So, but we want to talk about these letter grades, so let's talk about them. So, first of all, these letter grades were passed in 2016, and they weren't released until 2023. So I think it's an awful big coincidence that they decide not to release these test grades in 2023 until all these school vouchers start catching steam. So it's also a little fact that the letter grades were actually supposed to be introduced the previous year, but they were not released because the letter grades were considered too high, and so they needed to recalculate the formula on which these grades were here. But again, these letter grades, I do think that we do have some schools that need some attention. I'm in agreement with that. But to try and fool the public with these letter grades is an absolute disgrace. Thank you.
Josh, thank you. Jamie, you're up next. On the recent school report card, you heard the question a minute ago, the majority of Campbell County schools received a grade of D or lower. And what do you attribute this to, and what can be done to improve the school system?
Well, we have to look at no test is perfect. You really have to look at each individual school. And, you look at the schools in my district. You can't compare schools because every school community is different. And you have to do a deep dive into data. You've got to look at a school's data. You've got to look at standards that are being taught. You have to look at, do we need work with in math? Do we need to work on multiplication? In language arts, do we need to work on reading comprehension? We have to look at all that in the data. And no matter what, the state's always going to be looking at test scores. And, one school may make gains, growth, but achievement be low. And then achievement may be high, growth, opposite. And then you have to look at what the federal government looks at. You look at schools that meet their AMOs, which is your annual measurable objective, okay? And that may be great. They may reach their AMO and they may double it. And I've seen the schools that have done that and make a D. So we've got to look at those things. So the state's really thrown it at us. So, and there was another part to that question, what we can do to improve?
To improve, yes.
Okay. Something I think we need to look at is the number of teachers that are exiting our county at this point. What's going on? Why are they leaving? And it's happening not here but everywhere. And what can we do to fix that problem? Because if you don't have the great teachers staying here and working with these kids, that's what makes the system great.
Jamie, thank you. Josh, thank you. Susan, you're next.
Thanks, Jim. I'm going to stress this first word, hypothetically. Okay, hypothetically, the school system has a surplus of $500,000. What do you do with it? Be specific with your answer, Josh.
Surplus. We didn't realize what that was 5 out of the 6 years of me being on the board, but we were actually lucky enough this past year. But I think this question is one that truly is going to separate me from other candidates and either from other members, is that I'm sure when you ask the question about the $500,000 surplus, you're probably going to get answers, such as spending on school safety or mental health awareness or even CTE, which are all phenomenal answers, which we need spending on. But I believe that that's short-term thinking. So I would take the $500,000 and I would open up an online program here in Campbell County that we currently do not have. We are currently, right now, we have 90 students that are enrolled in other online programs, and with the new TISA formula that has come out, we're receiving right around $9,500 per student. So if you take the $9,500 and you multiply it by that 90, it's going to give you right at $855,000. So I think that's the difference in me and the others and the way they think, is that I have taken this one-time surplus that you have given me of $500,000, and now I have created a reoccurring surplus for our system of $355,000 at the very minimum that can be used year after year after year. So that's what I would use the $500,000 for.
Okay, thanks, Josh. All right, Jamie, again, stressing this word, hypothetically, the school system has a surplus of $500,000. What do you do with it? Be specific in your answer.
Well, $500,000, you're not going to necessarily have that surplus every year. And I look at it, how can we help teachers and students? Every year, teachers receive $250,000 of BEP money to spend in their classrooms, which is not even close to what they need, ever. So I'm thinking, if you take that and the number of teachers that we do have, why not give those teachers $1,000 each and let them spend it in that classroom, buy those supplies that they need, and do some things for those students that they normally cannot do.
Okay, thank you. That was quick. Jim?
Thanks, Susan. She said she'd have short answers
She
tonight.
did. Quick.
She did.
Josh, back to you. How do we stop, or at least, the very least, reduce bullying in our schools?
Bullying has been going on for as long as I can remember. I know it definitely happened when I was in school, and I'm sure it happened when you were in school as well. Bullying is something that we do not take lightly. The Board of Education, we have a policy for that, which is 6.304, that provides step-by-step instructions on how we handle it. Every single bullying complaint is investigated, and once it is investigated, that investigation has to be sent to the state of Tennessee. We have SROs on sites to assist if bullying issues occur on sites. We also have access to Homeland Security if the incident was to occur online. But by saying all that, we can take every measure to prevent or reduce bullying, but we have to start addressing this in our homes at a young age. We need to teach our children that bullying of any kind is not accepted and it's not tolerated. But I think it's equally important that we teach our kids to have tougher skin. Because unfortunately, we live in a society and we live in a community where there are people in the community that do not want to see people be successful, or they do not want the greater things for people in this community. And so I think that if we start at home at a young age and teach our children that it's not to be tolerated, I think that there's a chance, and maybe a slim chance, but I do think there is a chance that we can help prevent or maybe even eliminate bullying in our schools. Thank you.
All right, Josh, thank you. Jamie, how do we stop, or at the very least, reduce bullying in our schools?
Well, what we did when I was at the middle school and at the high school, and something I think is very, very, very important, is for teachers and administrators, because you never saw me in my office. People said, well, you're never in your office. That's because you're always out and about and you know what's going on. But it's about building relationships. You've got to build relationships with the students, and they have to, and the teachers have to build those relationships, and to where they trust someone to go to. Say, hey, this is going on. Or if they're a parent, they go home and they tell their parents, and their parents feel comfortable, hey, I can call that person and say, hey, this is going on. I think building those relationships and getting that trust with students is key. I think what Josh said, education. Educate people. What is bullying? What should we do about it? What can you do? Who can you go to? And I think that's a key thing in just stopping bullying and just in listening. Those kids want to be listened to. So just listen.
Very good, Jamie. Thank you. Susan, you have the next question, the last question.
It is. All right, Josh, do you support opening the public school classroom to educated people from other careers and fast-tracking them to becoming a qualified teacher?
I do. I think Jamie touched on it earlier, and I think this is a phenomenal opportunity to address a nationwide teacher shortage. I think maybe that would be easier to recruit and even retain people who are knowledgeable at their craft. So yes, 100%. I'm in firm agreement that I think that's a phenomenal idea. Yes.
Okay, thank you. Jamie, do you support opening public school classrooms to well-educated people from other careers and giving them a fast-track route to becoming a qualified teacher?
Absolutely. While I was at Campbell County High School, we had a lot of teachers that came in from different careers to teach. I mean, we're in desperate need of math teachers. English, any teacher, you need those teachers. And one thing that I think that is lacking there, and I think we could even go out as far as retired teachers helping mentor teachers coming in as a new career, because I find that they have problems with classroom management. I mean, those are where you run into some things. And if you've got someone there with you, we have mentor teachers in the school, but those teachers teach too. They don't have a lot of time. But yes, you can utilize that. They are just what they know and the knowledge they have is unbelievable.
Okay, thank you. Jim, back to you.
Susan, thank you. We certainly express our appreciation to Josh James, to Jamie Human-Wheeler for being here tonight. And Susan, thank you. And we invite you to stay connected as Meet the Candidates on WLAF continues. We're switching from District 4 school board candidates to our next segment. Stay with us.
You're watching WLAF's presentation of the 2024 Meet the Candidates Forum. Coming up next, the 5th District School Board race. The forum is brought to you by 50 Fades, local realtor Gage Dopel, ABC Bounce House and Party Rental, Cumberland Equipment Rentals, Quality Lawn Sales and Service, Smith Metal and Dock Sales, Robbins Roofing, Guttering and Siding, Community Trust Bank, and by WLAF.
Our Meet the Candidates coverage continues here on WLAF. It's the 5th District School Board candidates here tonight. We're pleased to have Ryan Cummins, Bob Walden, my co-host, Susan Sharp along, and we're glad you're along as well. We'll open with a couple of minutes of comments from each candidate. We'll also have a total of 6 questions for each candidate, and we'll operate tonight in alphabetical order. So to get started, we'll begin with you, Ryan Cummins.
My name is Ryan Cummins. I am a Christian. I love the Lord. I serve the Lord. I am a Tennessee Welcome Center manager, state of Tennessee for 17 years, public servant. Married for 12 years to my wife Ophelia. We have 3 sons in Jellicoe Elementary School, and they are Jackson, and he's 7. Jackson's 9. Nate is 7, and Grayson is 5. And so I'm at the schools and involved in the community on a daily basis, and as I was telling Susan and Jim here, coach everything that's available in Jellicoe, just about it.
Very good, Ryan. Thank you. Bob, your turn.
Well, my name is Bob Walden, and I'm running for school board here in the 5th District. And I have a wife who we will have been married 40 years in July. I have 1 son, Zach, who proudly serves as our criminal court judge here locally. For those, some folks know him. I've served for 23 years in the school system, 18 years as a school administrator. I've served at 8 different schools, and I'm looking forward to retirement come June. But education runs in my family. A lot of people know that, but my grandmother taught in Campbell County for 47 years. She started in the Black Oak community near Jellicoe, and she taught in the mining camps in Westburn and Rich Mountain and around those places, and then she taught about 30-plus years at Wynn School. Her sister taught for 30-plus years at Wynn School. her sister's daughters taught for 30-some years in Campbell County, and some of them the grandchildren are still teaching. So I have uncles, cousins, in-laws. We're entrenched in here. So about 5 years ago, we moved into the 5th. Well, I won't say 5 years. We decided to move into the 5th district. We didn't get things built and ready, and my family farmed there at Lick Creek, and I doing a little family history. The Waldens came to Lick Creek sometime in the late 1800s, so we've been there for a long time, and we're enjoying our time there. I'm here to serve. I always have been.
Bob, very good. Welcome, Bob Walden, Ryan Cummins. We'll get right to the questions. Our first question is for you, Ryan, and you as well, Bob. First, Ryan, is there a particular issue that motivates you to serve on the school board?
There's not a particular issue. I've prayed about it for a long time, and I feel like God's led me here and led me to do this. Like I said, very involved in the community and have a passion for serving the public in all aspects. And being at the schools every day with my sons, I see things that maybe I can impact in a more positive manner. And really, no specific issue. Just being led to do it and being excited to serve. Have a long time with the state of Tennessee public service and want to continue that in this role. And again, feel led to do it. So very excited.
Very good. Ryan, thank you. Bob, same question for you. Is there a particular reason that motivates you to serve on the Board of Education?
The only reason, honestly, is Pam and I are both retiring in June, and I don't feel like I'm done serving our kids. And I do know schools. I know schools, and I love kids. And I know it sounds corny, but I really do. That's why I stayed in it. I actually took the job originally as a fill-in 20-some years ago, and I fell in love with teaching. I really enjoy spending time with kids. So our kids' performance, I think a school board can have a real positive impact on schools broadly. I have an impact on the school I serve, but as a board member, I have an opportunity to impact more schools in a positive way. I'm especially fond of our small schools. I've served at White Oak, Wynn, Jellicoe Elementary, and Jellicoe High School, and those schools mean so much to the community. It's much more than what than what a budget or a dollar figure would put on. I remember when they closed Wynn High School and what the negative impact it had on that community, and I really want to see our small schools thrive so that they don't become expendable to some, because I see them as invaluable.
Bob, thank you. Susan, we'll let you get to your question.
Thanks, Jim. Ryan, where and how should the majority of the school's funding be allocated?
I feel like the majority of the funding for all the schools should be first academics, and with that I want to include teacher compensation, pay, salary increases, and secondly, sports. You have students in all schools that they live to play sports. My middle son Nate is anything with the ball, he's ready to play. But when you go through the spectrum of sports in middle school and high school, there's kids that their primary motivation to keep a certain level grade point average is to play sports, and so that's an incentive. But when you get back to the academics and things, nothing should be second to education. Education should be our first priority. And the lion's share, so to speak, of that money should be both for academic improvements and teacher pay increases and compensation. When you look at teachers, and not just teachers, because I want to be inclusive there and say, all of your school staff, everybody from your janitors to your principals, we're counting on them to do an extremely crucial job, I can't really think of much more important role in a community that these people can play, and we're asking them to do it. We're asking them to do that for almost less and less money, because as inflation rises, if you're making the same thing you were 3 years ago, you're making less money, and that's something that these teachers and educators, all of the school staff shouldn't be faced with when they have such a incredible role in our day-to-day lives and in our community.
Okay. Thank you, Ryan. All right, Bob, same thing for you. Where and how should the majority of the school system's funding be allocated?
It's always going to be allocated personnel. That's going to be the bulk of any budget, anything that comes in. But every dollar should be accounted for. And I'll say, from sitting in a principal seat and having kind of some inside baseball on how the budget is, I'll say that the Campbell County school system wastes very little money, and it's not the obvious kind. You know, if it's there, it'd be hard to find because they've done a really good job of managing the budget that they have. Now, we've made changes in the school funding formula over the last couple of years, and it's proven beneficial for Campbell County. This new TISA, don't ask me what that stands for. I just know what it's called, but it's the investment in student achievement. So that formula has more student-centered. So instead of the finance office telling the director and the board, you've got enough to hire 47 teachers or whatever the number is at a school, the school will see the number of kids, the amount of money that comes accounted for that school, and they can make their decisions based on that without just looking at numbers. Historically, the BEP hasn't allowed a lot of flexibility for the board to really be involved in how those funds are allocated. And I agree that we need to take care of our teachers. They need to be compensated for the job they do, and they need to be compensated well. But I have a philosophy about my schools, every school I've been in, is you put students first. And if you put students first, everything will work out. So whatever's best for kids, when you line up the money, when you line up and say, okay, here's what we're going to do, is it best for kids? Everything else will take care of itself.
Thank you, Bob. Jim?
Susan, thanks. Ryan, on the recent school report card, the majority of Campbell County schools received a D or lower. And what do you attribute this to, and what do you think can be done to improve the school system?
First, I would like to look more into the rubric and criteria that we arrive at a D school, a D level school. I would like to see the formula that goes into saying, hey, this school is a D level school, because in the 5th district we have 4 elementary schools and 1 high school, Jellicoe High School. Those White Oak, Wynn, Elk Valley, and Jellicoe are feeders into Jellicoe High School. All of the 4 have a D report card that feeds into Jellicoe High School, which is a B. So do we have a best practice thing going on there, or do we have a situation where the rubric might be skewed? Sorry, and I would want to look at that first and see how we arrive there. But then following that, I've been to all the schools in the 5th district, and in talking with the staff and the faculty and principals, and they're all understaffed and they're all underpaid. And it's not a situation where you can throw money at something and say, hey, here's X amount of dollars, make this improvement. But I do think that looking at those elements are very important. And another thing that I was looking at earlier today is your student to teacher ratio, and I'm not sure on the AB schools what that student to teacher ratio is, but if you find a school that hey, we want to implement these practices that they have, and we want to raise our report card from that D score to an A score or a B score, because we have a super dedicated, hard-working team, teachers, educators, principals, and that they mean and their impact mean much more than a D level. Thank you.
Ryan, thank you. Bob, same question. On the recent report card, the majority of Campbell County schools received a score of D or lower. What do you attribute this to, and what do you think could be done to improve those scores?
In 2 minutes?
Well, 2.5. I'll go ahead. 2 minutes.
Okay. Well, first of all, Jellicoe High School was a B school, and regardless of the rubric, because the rubric, we're not going to have a lot of input into the rubric, kind of like we do some other things. They don't ask us how to grade a school, right? So, but Jellicoe High School is a B school. They should be very proud of that. They should stand tall for that. I think it takes a lot of hard work. I led a school that didn't get that D. We made it above that D level ourselves, and I know how much work it took for our teachers to get there. And it's hard. It's teaching's not easy anymore. It used to be a much simpler process, I think, but now we look at all these different angles, and we're measuring schools by test scores and attendance and whatever else they can come up with. So that's that. Now, when we talk about what causes it and what the cures are, I know schools. I've been around a long time, right? And I've seen a lot of things, and a big part of it is things happen to kids outside of school that we can't control, and how their brains develop, how they learn to process. And I know I would be down a rabbit hole here. We'd be here all night if we're going to talk about this. But that's a lot of it. We have to teach our teachers. We have to teach our leaders, our principals. They have to know how to deal with kids that they process things differently. They learn differently, and it's an ongoing process. You're not going to fix this with a couple of counseling sessions and a video. It takes years to overcome, and I think that's what's happening at La Follette Elementary. We've changed the climate and culture of the school to where the teachers are now looking at kids not as that clientele, but they're looking at them as kids that need to learn differently. Make sure leaders have what they need, make sure teachers have what they need. We ought to have the best of everything. We ought to have the best training, the best equipment, the best technology, and we've been very fortunate with ESSER money to get $28 million extra dollars over the last 3 years, and a lot of our stuff's in real good shape in that regard. So now it's time to rush forward.
Bob, thank you. Susan, your next question.
All right. The next question is, how do we stop, or at the very least reduce, bullying in our schools?
I think probably the most effective way to do that is both parent and teacher involvement and interaction and engagement. Along with awareness, you make a child aware and say, hey, if you see something that resembles this, maybe come and tell someone, because we're in a situation now. There should be no bullying at all, but now with a lot of younger kids having cell phones and iPads and internet access, that bullying can extend from just the school grounds to they can take that home with them, and then there's been multiple tragedies attributed to bullying, and but I think the parent involvement, the teacher involvement, and the engagement and looking for signs. I coach all kinds of different sports, and so if I see something that looks to even resemble bullying, I make sure to kind of shut that down really quick and say, hey, we want to treat everybody the way that we want to be treated, and so a way to prevent it. But of course, I can't be, or a teacher can't be at every single situation where a child may encounter that. But with that said, I think the awareness, the interaction, and the engagement can really slow that down or stop it completely.
Bob, same question to you. How do we stop, or at the very least reduce, bullying in our schools?
It happens. It's happened since time memoriam, and the stopping part may be a little too hopeful, but I think we can reduce it. And really and truly, the access that students have to social media, the internet, using phones, iPads, really what I've seen from my perspective is it starts outside there and they bring it into the school rather than the other way around. And then it just becomes this cycle. I really think that most students probably aren't ready for in a maturity level to handle conflict and social media. I mean, it's awful. Let's face it, we've seen some adults that act like children when they get a keyboard in front of them, right? You've never seen that on your website, have you? Never. I didn't think so. But anyway, again, it comes back to climate and culture. I've been in enough schools, and I know schools, and every school I've been to, what I've tried to do is create a climate, a culture, and an environment where one, kids are safe, they're welcome, they feel cared for, they feel loved, and as we get to build those things around each other, we create a culture of forgiveness. I can't tell you the number of times I've had the kids come in and we talk about that forgiveness, because forgiveness is a powerful, powerful tool, and it's a great act for us to commit to. And see kids, young kids, 3rd, 4th, 5th grade kids, just break down in tears when they realize, oh, all I got to do is say, I forgive you, or will you forgive me? So creating that climate and culture where kids feel that way is I think goes a long way and will eventually reduce bullying. I've seen it work.
Okay, thanks, Bob. Jim?
Susan, thanks. Ryan, here we go with my last question. We still have two more. Do you support opening public schools, the classrooms, to well-educated people from other careers and giving them a fast track to becoming qualified teachers?
When I first got the list of questions, that one particularly stood out to me because there's so many moving parts in that question. Who and what would determine what is well educated and what kind of career would be appropriate for someone to come. But when you look at, like earlier in our questions, the school report card, if we have 4 elementary schools at a D level, I think that we support the teachers that we have instead of encourage someone to come from outside and try to get teaching, either teaching licenses. When you look at all of our teachers and the work that they do to become licensed and to become educators, I would never want to discount the work they do or how they get there. That's a very difficult path that they take, and they set out, going to college to say, hey, I want to be part of the public education system. And with that, I don't feel like that would be appropriate to more or less take a shortcut, especially when we're at a D level. I can't see if there was a situation where that had been extremely beneficial to a school and there was proven results behind that, but I think there's so much to that question that I just wouldn't think that would be appropriate.
Ryan, thank you. Bob, same question. Do you support opening schools, the classrooms, to well-educated?
100%.
Okay.
100%. That's how I got my start. I was an educated police officer. My first career was law enforcement. I worked as a deputy sheriff in Lee County, Florida. I was there as a patrol deputy. I worked as an investigator, an agent they call them, a detective, and I also worked as a canine handler. Of course, I had an associate's degree in law enforcement, a bachelor's degree in criminal justice, and I came in as a teacher. Now, having said that, I have seen that fail. When we had that Teach for America plan a few years ago, and we had some professionals come in, especially at the high school level, especially if you're not dealing with juniors and seniors, you deal with freshmen and sophomores, it's a whole different maturity level. So I've seen a lot of teachers fail miserably because they didn't have that toolbox, those tools that come into a classroom, whether it's teaching strategies or classroom management strategies. Fortunately, I lived with a mentor teacher who helped me every day, or I would have failed miserably myself. And quite honestly, years later, looking back, I would have been a whole lot better teacher for my kids had I had some of that experience going in. I feel bad for them in a way now, all these years removed, and I occasionally apologize to them. But the caveat I would put on that is that they experience some classroom student teaching experience under a real high-quality, highly effective teacher.
Bob, thank you. Susan, you have our last question.
Okay. Ron, if necessary to cut the school budget, where would you do it, and what areas would be off limits? Be specific.
I would start with the areas that would be completely off limits, and that would be your staff. I'd said that previously. I feel like we are already understaffed in the 5th District. I've not been to one school that said, I just have an abundance of staff. I have people everywhere. No one has said that to me. They have all voiced the need for additional staff. So staff would be my off limits for sure. And then looking at any kind of budget cuts, I think, being part of that board, you have there's a lot of discussion there that can happen, and but I would take the approach of doing very minor cuts to different things as opposed to big drastic cuts. But with that said, of course, again, my teachers and my educators and my school staff, all of my staff would be off limits because we need more support, and we need to be able to help them grow in their roles. We have some amazing teachers in Campbell County, and we have some amazing teachers in the 5th District. So again, on that student to teacher ratio, my staff would be my most important.
Okay, thank you. All right, Bob, same for you. If necessary to cut the budget, where would you do it and what areas would be off limits, and be specific?
Okay, so taking my driving philosophy of what's best for kids, you would have to look at the areas that would be least impactful to students, whether that's personnel or whatever's least impactful. Those are the things that you go for first. So if personnel, our teachers are, you think that's the most impactful, you set those aside and you start with, it may be the small things that you end up cutting, whether it's toilet paper supply or something like that. But I've never yet had an abundance of toilet paper in school, so. But considering what's best for students every single time, that's where you start from. Now, when it comes to the off-limits part, there's two parts that are off-limits. One is safety. I'll never stand if we need SROs. We got a good program. It's finally grown into a pretty steady program now of school resource officers, and I would never stand for that. Anything to do with safety would be off limits, and anything like I said, I'm afraid there's some that might think our small schools are expendable, and I would absolutely. They might fight me over that one, and I haven't been in a fight in a long, long time. But that's pretty much it. But the thing that's least impactful to kids, that's what you cut first and work your way from there. And to be honest with you, with the new TISA formula, we're not going to have to worry about that, at least in the near future.
Okay, thank you.
Ryan Cummins, thank you, sir. Bob Walden, thank you. And Susan, as always, thank you. Susan Sharp, our candidates for 5th District School Board here tonight. Ryan Cummins, Bob Walden. Stay connected. Our Meet the Candidates Forum continues here on WLAF.
You're watching WLAF's presentation of the 2024 Meet the Candidates Forum. Coming up next, a word from Ron Dilbeck, Road Superintendent. The forum is brought to you by 50 Fades, local realtor Gage Dopel, ABC Bounce House and Party Rental, Cumberland Equipment Rentals, Quality Lawn Sales and Service, Smith Metal and Dock Sales, Robbins Roofing, Guttering and Siding, Community Trust Bank, and by WLAF.
I'm Ron Dilbeck, Campbell County Road Superintendent. I'd like to thank the citizens of Campbell County for giving myself the honor to represent them for the past 9 years. A little bit of history about the Highway Department, that we maintain 688 miles of county roads, 687 roads, and 102 bridges. We have 3 bridges under contract at the present time for replacement, and we've saved millions of dollars in the past 3 to 4 years on these bridge grant through the state of Tennessee, TDOT, on rebuilding our bridge structures. And I'd like to thank Mr. Dennis Potter for giving me the opportunity to be road superintendent 9 years ago. So a little bit of history about my family is, I'm married to Naomi Dilbeck. I have 2 wonderful girls, Mackenzie and Chloe, and a new son-in-law, Landon Justice. And I'm thankful for my friends and family for all they do for me, and to thank the Lord every day for what he does for me also. So we have 28 employees at the Highway Department. We have 3 full-time at the county quarry, 3 office personnel counting the supervisor, and I'm blessed to have the best employees to any department in the county. Although I am unopposed, no opponent for this election cycle, I want to ask the citizens of the county to vote and support me through this election cycle.
You're watching WLAF's presentation of the 2024 Meet the Candidates Forum. Coming up next, a word from Dennis Powers, Tennessee State Representative. The forum is brought to you by 50 Fades, local realtor Gage Dopel, ABC Bounce House and Party Rental, Cumberland Equipment Rentals, Quality Lawn Sales and Service, Smith Metal and Dock Sales, Robbins Roofing, Guttering and Siding, Community Trust Bank, and by WLAF.
Hello everyone, I'm State Representative Dennis Powers, and I am running for re-election in the Republican primary in August and then the general election in November. Since I've been in office with the help of my colleagues, we've done a lot of accomplishments in our state. I want to talk about a few of them. Per capita, we have the least amount of debt and the least amount of state and local taxes in the nation, and we're proud of both of those. We also have a AAA credit rating from all the three major credit agencies, and only 14 states in the country have that designation. With employment, we've had a record low unemployment of 3.3%. All 95 counties have showed an improvement in their employment rate. New business filings are up again. 19,304 new business entities filed in Tennessee in 2023 alone. Many of these are small businesses that are the backbone of our state and local economy. Tennessee is a great place for doing business. We've attracted more than 13,000 new jobs in 2023 alone. These new commitments included new capital investment of nearly $4 billion. As you know, we've had a lot of distressed counties. Actually, Campbell County was one at one time, and last year we made history when it was announced that Tennessee now has the fewest number of distressed counties in state history. In 2019, there were 15. Today, there are only 8. And this is because we've worked with the governor and to prioritize workforce development, education, and infrastructure investments in our rural counties. A lot of people are moving to Tennessee. Our population is now going over 7 million. In 2023, Tennessee added more than 77,000 people to our state. And people are visiting Tennessee in record numbers. 141 million people visited Tennessee in 2022, and all 95 counties saw an increase in visitor spending. Rainy Day Fund, which is our savings fund, is at a record high. Under the proposed budget we have this year, the Rainy Day Fund balance will now stand at $2.2 billion. We know things are not always going to be good, and we're going to make sure that we're ready when we have a downturn, if we ever do, in the economy. One of the most popular things we started since I've been in office, of course, is our Tennessee Promise program, where everyone can get a free 2-year college degree or TCAT degree or certificate. We have so many good things going on in the state of Tennessee, and many other states are calling us wanting to know how we do it. With your help, we will continue to make Tennessee the greatest state in the nation to work, play, and raise a family and retire. Thank you for your support, and may God bless America and the great state of Tennessee.
WLAF's presentation of the 2024 Meet the Candidates Forum has been brought to you by 50 Fades, local realtor Gage Dopel, ABC Bounce House and Party Rental, Cumberland Equipment Rentals, Quality Lawn Sales and Service, Smith Metal and Dock Sales, Robbins Roofing, Guttering and Siding, Community Trust Bank, and by WLAF.